Dudley Road in Billerica looks quiet, ordinary, but behind the trees and crumbling stone walls, the stories start. A nun who hung herself, accusations of witchcraft, and a figure seen by the roadside, always watching, never speaking. Some roads just feel wrong. This is one of them. You're listening to Weirder After Dark. Welcome back to Weirder After Dark, the podcast. We get into all things New England weird. My name is Sean, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Kathy.
And today we have a episode that is rooted in different urban legends, kind of woven into one road. And I'm so excited to talk about it.
I love the urban legend ones because there's always a air of mystery and what did people make up? What did they add? What was real?
Yeah,
it's always
so
fun.
true. It's so true. And it's trying to pick it apart and find out like what is real and what's not. Or do you just leave it alone and just lean into the coolness of the story, right? It got me thinking, do either of you, were there any urban legends around where you grew up?
I don't know if this is real or not. I guess that's the whole point, right? But I don't know if it's actually a real story or if I made it up in my head.
Okay.
There was a creepy house that was on the road along Craigville Beach. It was just this big house. I remember thinking that it was like haunted and there was like something there. But I don't know if that's actually a real story or if it's just like I looked at the house and was like, that house is creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
I don't really know.
It's either an urban legend or like an unurban Kathy's head legend.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Chris, what about you?
The high school I went to, it was from like the 1700s. It was a seminary and then it was a girls' school. And there was a rumor that they found a body in the basement and covered it up and nobody was allowed to know.
That's creepy.
I have no idea if it's true, but all the kids would talk about it.
Damn.
Oh.
Do you remember seeing anything spooky or weird or strange in your time there? Or
I did have some classes in the basement.
what?
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, it was they needed a new high school.
Yeah, sounds like
they
it.
basically put some classrooms down in the basement and it was a little freaky down there, to be honest.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Even if the story is not true, just the fact that you have class in the basement.
That adds an aura.
It was a poor school.
Yeah, it sounds like it should have been illegal. Like, are you okay, Chris? Like, did they hurt you?
I got the settlement from the asbestos, so
Okay.
things are turning out
Good.
okay.
Good.
Good.
The building looks creepy.
The
like
building was creepy, yeah.
it's one of those like old brick buildings.
I remember growing up, family has a lake house in Vermont. My dad and my uncle used to always tell me that there was this haunted house that was a couple streets down. And what they would do is they'd occasionally like drive us down there on like really wet, misty, foggy days. And they would always be like, the house floats in the fog. And like, I don't know, being like 5, I still was like, the house doesn't fucking float, Dad. Like, that doesn't make any sense.
There's fog underneath the house, Dad.
Yeah, like, what are you doing? But my mom was telling me when I asked her about this story for this episode, she was just like, yeah, you and your sister never believed it, but your dad and your uncle did. I don't know what that says. I was just like...
Is that the house that we went up to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The
yeah,
one you
that
both
place is
lived there.
cool.
Yeah. So I don't recall any floating houses.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
No floating houses.
No floating houses. R.I.P. Dad. Anyways, today we're actually going to be diving into a local ghost story out of Billerica, Massachusetts, and it is a fucking wild one, if I'm being honest. And it's going to be really centered around nuns, like an unsettling amount of nuns. And honestly, I feel like I've said word nun so many times that it doesn't even feel like a real word anymore. Have you ever had that? Where you're just like, what? So I'm going to say that word and it just feels like noise at this point. Or nonsense. If you okay, yeah, I had
well
to.
done.
But seriously, this story's got it all. It's got witchcraft, devil worship, car accidents, asylum escapees, murders, the whole damn supernatural buffet. And according to legend, it all occurs sporadically over 300 years. Some stories dating all the way back to the 1700s. But even cooler than devil worship, this episode was requested by the gang. We got Reddit comments, Facebook messages, and then finally, just like 2 weeks ago, one of our listeners, Justin, reached out and said, yo, when you covering the most haunted road in Massachusetts, guys, and I say it's time to get the people what they want.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's time to share a strange, twisted, and probably not very accurate, but deeply unsettling story of Dudley Road. Also, heads up, gang, we're introducing a new, very scientific metric for this episode that we are dubbing the nun count. Every time we say the word nun, take a mental note or a shot, whatever feels right, and just keep that in mind. All right, we ready to dive in?
Okay.
Let's go.
All right, let's do it. Let's set the scene. Dudley Road is one of those winding, tree-covered stretches of road that feels so completely normal at first, until it doesn't. It cuts through Billerica and then over town lines into Bedford, Massachusetts, like a forgotten back road, narrow, quiet, a little too dark at night. It's not long, just a few miles, but when the sun goes down, it turns into something else entirely. There's dense woods on either side, thick enough to block out the moonlight. Houses are few and far between, and the silence, some locals say, doesn't feel peaceful, it feels watched. People have reported all kinds of strange things over the years. Flickering lights in the trees, shadowy figures on the side of the road, the sound of footsteps and screaming where there shouldn't be any, and always the stories seem to come back to the same themes: tragedy and nuns. So how did this quiet little road earn such a haunted reputation? Well, like any good ghost story, there's no single version. It's more of a tangle of urban legends that seem to have morphed over time. So let's rewind and take a look at where the legend actually begins. Back in the 18th or 19th century, there was a convent tucked away near Dudley Road. The nuns who lived there, though, they're not your average Jesus-loving nuns. Nope, they were more like Satan's side chicks, because according to the legends, they were practicing witchcraft in secret. Rumor had it these nuns would... I see Kathy marking nuns. Sorry. Rumor had it these nuns would leave the convent in the dead of night, quietly make their way down the shadowy stretch of Dudley Road, disappearing into the woods. Their destination? An old, abandoned house hidden among the trees. A structure that some believe is still standing today, though now it's crumbling, half sunken into the ground. And it's there that they perform their dark rituals. Now, nobody really agrees on what those rituals involved, but the rumors were enough to send imaginations in overdrive. Strange symbols, eerie chanting, maybe even blood sacrifices. You know, the stuff passed around by flashlights during sleepovers or late night drives with the windows down. This was classic satanic panic energy, just a couple centuries ahead of schedule. Eventually, word got out. The town, shocked, horrified, scandalized, decided the only logical course of action was, of course, some good old-fashioned street justice. So that's exactly what the townspeople did. They grabbed ropes, torches, weapons, real angry mob energy, and marched their asses towards the convent. The nuns, supposedly catching wind of the whole situation, made a run for it. But they didn't make it far before they were surrounded. And according to the story, several of those nuns were executed right in the woods near Dudley Road. And that's where the hauntings supposedly begin.
What a crazy story. Nuns that are doing witchcraft and worshiping Satan. I mean,
Yeah.
that's quite a jump.
And the house is sinking in the ground now?
Oh, just wait. We're going to get back to that house. But
Ooh.
yep,
All right.
supposedly
Okay.
sinking into the ground. People claim to see shadowy figures and habits walking the roadside at night, ghostly faces peering from between the trees, a woman in a nun's habit who appears out of nowhere, sometimes standing still, sometimes walking, sometimes asking for directions back to the convent. And then there's the house, that creepy abandoned building where the rituals were said to happen. Some claim they found it, and you can actually go online and see pictures of it. And they say now it's literally sinking into the earth as if it's being swallowed whole by whatever darkness was conjured inside. And they say it's slowly being pulled back to hell.
Oh, yeah.
Paranormal investigators who's explored it say only the second floor is still visible, while the first floor is completely gone, sucked into the dirt. Like the earth itself, again, is trying to completely erase whatever went down there.
That is creepy.
Yeah. So yeah, devil worshipping nuns, a cursed convent, and a house being slowly sucked into hell. That alone would probably be enough to earn Dudley Road a spot on Massachusetts, haunted hotspot list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this road does not treat nuns well, because it doesn't end there. There's another legend tied to Dudley Road, and this one about a nun who was struck by a car while walking along roadside at night. The story goes that a driver, late at night, came around one of the road's sharp, narrow curves and didn't see her until it was too late. Allegedly, she died on impact, but her lifeless body was flung into a nearby tree. And just like that, another nun killed on Dudley Road. And ever since, drivers report seeing her, still walking that same stretch of pavement, still dressed in full habit, and still very, very lost. Some say she appears suddenly in the headlights just for a moment before vanishing. Others say she approaches the car, waving them down like she needs help. And if you're brave or stupid, you have to roll down your window. She'll lean in and quietly ask, "How do I get back to the convent?" Then, just as quickly, she's gone.
Ooh,
That's creepy.
Yeah, so creepy, right?
Well, they're wearing all black. Of course she's going to hit by a car. I mean, that has to happen all the time.
Yeah.
Walking around wearing all black, dark at night.
Some versions of the story claim that her face can now be seen in the bark of the tree where she died.
Oh, damn.
And I want to show you all a photo of her supposable face in the bark. And for our listeners, I'll go ahead and I'll post this image on our Instagram so you can ultimately see it as well.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely a face.
Yeah, they're definitely, I don't know. Our mind sometimes tries to put things where the story leads.
And that photo's not like edited or
Supposedly
anything.
not. The photo taken by Ron Kolick, Bob Corey, and Bob's wife Gay during an investigation on Dudley Road. Ron Kolick is a lead investigator with the New England Ghost Project and posted that photo as well as a few blog posts about his investigations on Dudley Road on newenglandghostproject.com. So you can also check it out there.
Yeah, if anything, I'd say that was carved. Definitely it's got the two eyes, the nose, the mouth.
Yeah. I can also say in that lake house up in Vermont that you two have been to,
Yep.
like, do you know how like it has the wood paneling? There's many times though I'm lying there at night looking at that wood paneling and you can make faces out of things that you know aren't there. So part of me is like, is that what's happening here? I don't know. So now we've had satanic nuns, roadkill nuns. You might think that'd be enough. Like maybe these poor souls could rest, but no. This place doesn't just haunt the nuns, it fucking devours them. And at this point, I'm genuinely starting to wonder if Dudley Road has a grudge against the Catholic Church or something. So before we move on, can I get a nun count, Kathy? How are we doing right now?
Including the times that Chris said it as well, we are now up to 18.
18 nuns.
18
Make that
nuns,
19. Hopefully no one's taking shots to this because you'd be dead.
Do not take shots.
Yeah, don't do it.
We'll have none of that.
Oh, he did it.
Now we're at 20.
For our next two stories, they're honestly maybe even more tragic than what we've already covered. And for some, they're the kind of stories that really stick with you. So I want to give a quick heads up. Not that our earlier stories were not dark, but we're about to get into some more sensitive topics involving suicide and sexual assault. And because of that, I'm going to pull back the jokes for a few minutes here because obviously those aren't funny topics. And I want to give them the space they respect and they deserve. So if that's not something you're up for right now, no worries at all. Feel free to skip ahead about 3 minutes. But with that, we ready to go?
Ready?
Legend has it, one of the nuns at the convent had been harboring a secret. She had become pregnant, and not just by anyone, by a priest. Now, whether that part is even remotely true is impossible to say, but in the legend, the shame, the fear, the weight of it all had become too much. And one night, she slipped away into the woods along Dudley Road and took her own life. Some say she hung herself from a tree near the roadside. Others say it was behind the abandoned house where no one would find her for days. But whatever happened, they say the spirit lingers, bound to that moment and to that road. She's been seen by hikers and drivers, always alone, always watching, always silent, just a dark figure in the trees, a presence that doesn't want to hurt you, but won't let you forget her either. But it doesn't stop there, because according to some versions of the legend, the final tragedy and crime against our nuns somehow turns darker. The story goes that a patient escaped a nearby asylum. Some say it was Old Tewksbury State Hospital. Others just call it the institution. Either way, the details are a little murky, but the ending is brutal. This escapee was wild and disoriented and found their way through the woods to the convent near Dudley Road. And instead of help or sanctuary, they wanted something else. Some say the escapee broke into the convent and murdered several nuns inside. Others say it happened along the road itself. The nuns were outside when he found them. There's even rumors that the escapee took refuge in that structure where the previous satanic rituals occurred, and it's in there that he murdered and sexually assaulted several nuns. Each version has its own disturbing outcome. But from that point on, people started claiming the area felt different, heavier, that the woods along Dudley Road hold not just restless spirits, but the memory of something truly violent, something that shouldn't have happened. And to this day, there are stories of people hearing screams in the trees, the sound of footsteps behind them, of sudden, overwhelming dread when passing by the spot where it supposedly went down.
Yeah, that was heavy.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, gang, for sticking with me through that. The stories are heavy. And
it's sad.
Yeah, and
it's
sad.
It's just really sad. Like, if there is any truth to that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of sad.
It is. Whether urban legend, local folklore, or based on something real, they carry some weight. They tap into something deeper, a sadness, shame, fear, horror, all wrapped up into a strange energy that seems to cling around Dudley Road. But now that we've made it to the darkest part of the woods, literally and figuratively, let's come up for a little air here and let's get back some levity. Because as weird as this place already is, believe it or not, there's more. It should come to no surprise that Dudley Road has become a magnet for thrill seekers, ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, teens with too much time and not enough supervision. And we're going to see that most of the individuals who reached out and recommended this episode, there was a lot of throwbacks like, dude, I remember when I was younger, I would be driving down that road with a bunch of friends and try to see stuff. But people come from all over to walk the road at night, cameras in hand, hoping to catch a glimpse of something, anything that might prove these legends are true. And of course, there are stories. One group claims they caught a figure on a camera, pale, cloaked, standing dead still in the trees. When they went back to check, no one was there. Others say they've heard chanting, not loud, not clear, but just barely audible, like something being carried on the wind, almost like prayers or maybe a warning. One guy said he saw a woman in a nun's habit standing in the middle of the road, not walking, not moving, just watching. And as he slowed down to get a better look, just vanished, completely gone.
Why are nuns so creepy?
Yeah.
I mean, they are, right?
Yeah, right. No, I'm with you.
I'm like on edge just thinking about them.
Every time I think of nuns, I think like the indigenous schools that the kids would get sent to and just like how cruel the nuns were. So like, I know nuns are supposed to be this holy, pure figure. And I'm sure some of them are really nice. But I think back to like the olden days, they do sort of have this bad reputation of being super strict. People who would go to like parochial schools, like the like Catholic schools, like would say like nuns used to like slap their knuckles with rulers.
Ooh.
And so I just think that like they do that. I think they have like that bad reputation.
Oh, for sure. Some other stories, there are people who visit that sunken house we spoke of. They say the energy changes the second you step near it. Phones will start to glitch out, temperatures start to drop. One individual said they smelled incenses or sulfur. Either way, not a good sign.
Sulfur, yeah.
Yeah. I watched a YouTube video of someone exploring this house, and the glass was broken on the door, and they took their camera and put it up inside of the window to look inside. And when the camera went to the bottom left of the screen, there was a staircase going down as if it was like leading to like a first floor or a basement. I don't know.
Oh, that's creepy.
But interesting to say the least. So to try to make sense of all this, right? The legends, the lore, these supposed paranormal investigator claims, I reached out to some locals to try to get their take on what they thought of Dudley Road.
All right.
So this first one here comes from Cal. Back in 1995, my buddies Tim, Mike, and I dared each other to bike down Dudley Road after dark. The old convent loomed in the shadows, silent and cold. As we passed, a low humming drifted through the trees, soft at first, then rising into a mournful wail. We froze. That's when we saw her, a pale girl in a tattered white dress, standing just beyond the tree line. Her eyes were black pits, her mouth twisted into a grin too wide for her face. Suddenly, footsteps pounded behind us, heavy and fast, but when we turned, nothing was there. And when we looked back, neither was she. We tore out of there, and I swear to this day I can still hear the humming.
That is creepy.
Yes.
That's a good story.
That is creepy as fuck, Cal.
Could you imagine? Oh my God.
Oh, I can't imagine. I don't want to imagine. I want nothing to do with that. Thank you, Cal, for sharing this. That's detailed and scary as fuck. But for every story like Cal's, and there were a few, I also heard 4 or 5 stories that sounded something like this. Lived on Dudley Road my entire life. It's creepy after dark, but there aren't ghosts. Stop with the shit, please. So, to which I say, you're a fucking bummer. Even if it's not real, let me have some fun, damn it. One amazing listener emailed in, Justin, and when I asked him if he experienced anything on Dudley Road, he shared the following story. Nothing really. We joked about a ghost squirrel we heard breaking some sticks somewhere in the distance. Who knows? Maybe it wasn't a squirrel. But I did have a second experience, and maybe this one's a little spookier. It happened one night where we heard a voice calling out to us, which was super creepy until we looked up in a tree and saw there was a deer hunter in a tree stand.
That guy is awesome.
Yeah. I thought that added some good levity to the story, so I had to add that in. I think that's just phenomenal. And that would have scared the shit out of me too. Because imagine going in with the mindset of, I'm going ghost hunting.
And then calling your name.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Get out of here. You're scaring the deer.
Oh, man. So with all these urban legends, this local input, these stories of people being on Dudley Road, what are we to make of this? Well, there's no shortage of photos, shaky videos, or wild Reddit threads. And while some of them are probably fake or fueled by adrenaline and their flashlight apps, you can't deny there's something about this place that makes people want to believe, right? So this brings us to our final twist in this whole story. There's one little problem. This story absolutely doesn't hold up to history at all. There's no historical evidence about any of this being true. Let's start with the whole idea of a convent existing there in the 17 or 1800s. You remember the one that was supposedly housed satanic nuns? Yeah, that never existed. Not real. No evidence at all. Also, the deaths, the hangings, nuns hit by cars, suicide, escapees from local asylums. Zero proof of any historical evidence of any of that happening. No newspaper articles. I couldn't find a single thing. I did find a local historian from the town of Bedford who went ahead and basically said, nah, it's a bunch of bullshit. It's not real. Right. So unfortunately, we're shredding some of the background here. However, the Daughters of St. Paul, the religious order that is often tied to these stories, is real, but it wasn't founded until the early 20th century. And they do have a property on Dudley Road. But I want to take a step further back from the ghost stories for a minute, because the real history of 77 Dudley Road, the address where the current retreat center exists, what people think ultimately was the convent at the end of the day, has some pretty interesting history. Before it was home to St. Thelka's Retreat Center, which it is now, the quiet, peaceful, spiritual getaway that sits there, the property had a much, much humbler history. Originally, the land was part of a colonial land grant tied to Puritan rivals John Winthrop and Thomas Dudley, two of the first governors ever of Massachusetts Bay Colony. Fast forward to the mid-1700s, and it became the home of John Stearns, the centerpiece of a large family farm. The Stearns family held on to that land for over 250 years, which is actually, kind of insane when you think about 250 years in the same family. And they ultimately ended up selling it in 1911. After that, the land took a more holy turn. In 1924, the Archdiocese of Boston picked it up and used it as a working farm tied to St. John's Seminary in Brighton. So to this point, this is the first real sign of church ownership or involvement at all on Dudley Road. Then it was handed over to the Maryknoll Fathers. That's a Catholic Foreign Mission Society of America. And it was used as a novitiate, basically a place where young men trained to become priests. Now, I can't say there were never any nuns there, but it doesn't sound like this is a nun convent to this point, right? Now, the Maryknoll Fathers kept it going as a working farm until 1964. After the Maryknoll Fathers left, a religious group called the Daughters of St. Paul purchased the land and moved into a quiet house barn off Dudley Road. They weren't your average local parish nuns. This was media-savvy Catholic order focused on publishing, prayer, and spiritual outreach. And back then, Billerica was still a pretty rural place. So a new group of clustered nuns in long habits living deep in the woods, I think that could probably raise some eyebrows, right?
Yeah, that'd be a little bit weird.
Feels a little weird. But ultimately, everything I can find says the nuns kept to themselves, and maybe that even added to the mystery a little bit, right? This new religious groups inside there that's keeping to themselves. And I think we know how that goes, right? When you mix isolation, something unfamiliar, and a kind of creepy setting in the middle of the woods, rumor mills start turning. So I think likely what happened was over time, the real Sisters of St. Paul got morphed into ghost stories, haunted nuns, cursed convents, the whole 9 yards. And again, none of the legends hold up to history, and there weren't even nuns or a convent around during all of the alleged timelines that started to play out. One of the Daughters of St. Paul, Sister Christine Orfo, went on record to say the following: "We did not hang ourselves.
The fact she went on record to say that is proof.
There's more. We did not summon demons. And we're pretty tired of people trespassing on our property trying to find ghosts. She even went on to express how they've had to remove spiritual objects from the property because people are continuously sneaking onto it, breaking them, and stealing them.
Oh, that's not okay.
Yeah. And the sinking house that everyone talks about, she claims it's just a fucking optical illusion. Leave it alone.
Did she say it was a fucking
No,
optical
she didn't
illusion?
swear. I added that in. It would have been badass.
God damn it.
Today, as I said earlier, the property is a retreat center, a quiet place for prayer and spiritual reflection. It has 75 rooms, a spacious chapel, a full-service kitchen, large dining rooms, large conference rooms, elevators, and I'm told ample parking. When I went onto their website, all the pictures that showed nuns in there said nuns not included, which is just fantastic. So likely a bunch of nonsense. But here's the thing. Even if the stories aren't real, they feel real. They've been passed down for decades, changing just enough with each retelling to stay alive. And maybe that's the true magic of Dudley Road. A religious order moved in, stayed quiet, and the town's imagination filled in the rest. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, you've got to admit, the timing lines up a little too perfectly. So next time someone tells you about the haunted nuns of Billerica, you'll know the truth. But to truly wrap this up, can I get a nun count? What's going on over there? How many nuns we got?
42 now.
43 nuns. Let's go.
43.
Oh, man. So that's my story on Dudley Road. What do we think?
I want to go there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Check it out?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go sneak on the property. We'll break some. No, let's not break things. We won't break things.
We're not gonna destroy property.
Yeah. I thought it was such a cool story. There was more woven into it. I didn't realize like how much history, but like this is definitely a place that it sounds like all of the locals around the area, they know the urban legend. And, you know, kids are going out late at night just to feel a little spooky. There's actually a book written about experiences on Dudley Road. I paid the money to buy it, but I won't lie, I didn't read it. I got about 25 pages in and it felt more like a book and I couldn't tell if it was real or if it was storytelling. Yeah. So I kind of abandoned it and decided to just lean in this way.
I love these types of stories because you have local lore and legend and people telling stories, you know, passing them along generation to generation, and they kind of change, but some of it's based in something real.
Yeah.
So it's cool to unpack all that and see where its actual origins are.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I'll also just give a quick shout out to Justin. Justin, thank you for pushing me, sending that email. When I saw that email, I was like, fuck it, I'm doing Dudley Road. I'm in. And it was such a cool story to dive into and to read a little bit. And Justin, I'm sorry if I crushed any of your dreams with the whole, this isn't historically accurate. But let's believe. Let's all just lean in a little bit. The world's more fun when we believe these things can be real. So I hope you enjoyed this story.
I liked it.
Good. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah, I liked it. It was good.
Good. And gang, I hope you enjoyed it too. And with that, we'll go ahead and we'll support some pictures on the Instagram about the research that I did. I'll make sure that we show an image of that house that is sinking on its way back to hell. We'll post that picture of the nun's face inside of the tree. And you make your own judgment. You tell me whether they're real or whether they're fake or whatever, something in between. And don't forget, we are actually out there building some communities right now too. So you can visit us and communicate with us and other people like yourselves who are enjoying this podcast on Reddit, on Instagram, and on Facebook by searching Weirder After Dark. And lastly, we are always on the lookout for stories, weird happenings, spooky nonsense right here inside of New England. And if you have anything like that, feel free to shoot your own story over to us. And you can send it to thegang@weirderafterdark.com. And we'll share your creepy New England story on an upcoming Listener Tales episode. And remember, it always gets a little weirder after dark.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.